Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter podcast. I am your host, Johnny Mac. Through this podcast, I am on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship is conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mac. Today, I am joined by just a fantastic human being and one of my favorite hunters, Jana Waller from Skullbound TV. Jana, thanks for joining us on the show tonight.
I am so excited to be here. You and I have been friends on Instagram for quite a while, so it's so fun to have this platform of yours, the Soulful Hunter, to chat about why we do what we do and what it all means to be just a passionate outdoors person.
Absolutely. The why. I think that's one of the biggest things that is lost in the hunting world is this concept of why we do it, why do we love it, and all of that goes along with it. So for those of people that have never heard the name Jana Waller before, can you give us a little background on who you are, where you're from?
Yep, absolutely. I live in the beautiful Bitterroot Valley of Montana. I have been a hunter my entire life, thanks to my dad, who I grew up in Wisconsin. And as I talk, you'll probably hear that accent come out of me. It's hard to hide. I'm very proud cheesehead. But my dad just, I think, saw in me such an innate passion for the outdoors. I was the second of two daughters, and I kind of was an innate tomboy at heart, but he sort of nurtured that love of the outdoors. He would take me along on pheasant hunts when I was old enough to walk the fields without complaining and let me sit next to him in the duck blinds. So he really introduced me to hunting. This is back in the day when I was 12 years old and in my hunter safety class. This was 1983, so this is quite a while ago. And but I'm proud to say that I've come a long way since then. Especially hunter safety classes have come a long way. It's a lot now. I go in and I talk to the classes often, and it's half girls, which is so fantastic. I was the only girl in my own hunter safety, but that was the start of my hunting passion with my dad. And I have a show called Skullbound TV. It's on the Sportsman's Channel. And while the title might sound a little bit weird, I'm not out looking for skulls necessarily. I'm a skull artist. I paint and bead European skulls. I do it for clients and customers across the country. I raise a lot of money for conservation causes with my artwork. It's just a really fun way to get connected to other hunters. I've been doing that for about 15 years. And but I've got Skullbound TV on Sportsman's Channel. We run January through June. And I have the brand new released Skullbound Chronicles, which is free online. Anyone can watch it on Carbon TV. And it's kind of the highlights of the last decade of filming hunting and fishing adventures. So that's my synopsis, and we're about to have a fun chat.
Heck yeah, we are. It is so cool that you are putting out content that people can see for free. YouTube is one of the most powerful resources for people in the hunting industry. And so for you to be able to join that movement and put some of that stuff up on Carbon TV, that's huge.
Yeah, I think it's really important to sort of have, a little bit of your name and all the pieces of the puzzle, so to speak. Our industry, the hunting industry, when you talk about it as a business perspective, is ever changing. I'm on network TV, which is Sportsman's Channel, but that's even changing. What that people used to get that with every single cable package. Now that's changing a little bit, even though there's new things growing. Sportsman's Channel is now available on Sling TV, which is what I have. I dropped my DirecTV. My $180 bill got too outrageous.
It's crazy.
It's nuts. So I got Sling, which is $29.99 a month, no contract. You get about 25 regular channels like Nat Geo and Discovery, some of the ones that I like. And then for an extra $5, so it's $24.99, but an extra $5, you get to add Outdoor Channel, Sportsman's, and a bunch of other Fishing Network and a bunch of other outdoor related networks. So it's exciting to see Sportsman's Channel get into some of these other areas that are modernized. But we also felt like we really needed a better online presence. And while I have a YouTube channel, my full hunts are not on that Skullbound TV YouTube channel. So Carbon TV, in my opinion, is the next best thing to YouTube that is so hunter friendly. YouTube is very discretionary. It tends to limit,
Yep.
especially predator hunting. And I'm a huge predator hunter of bears, mountain lions, coyotes. It limits that. It limits anything you have to do or say about guns. Whereas Carbon TV is so pro hunter. That's what it is. It's hunting videos, fishing videos, outdoor videos. And we just felt it was a really good platform to put our highlights on. We're also on My Outdoor TV, motv.com, which is online, but that's a subscription based, like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime, where you pay a subscription. Carbon TV, whereas you can watch our full hunt episodes on motv.com. But our highlights and behind the scenes funny stuff, really cool interviews with people, that's Skullbound Chronicles on Carbon TV.
Man, that's pretty cool. I
Yes.
love it. So we got so much to talk about. And before we get into some of the hot and heavy, what's some of your plans for this coming summer?
Summer, if there is an off season, which there really isn't, summer is kind of our time where it's a little bit more lax. Come the end of August, I'm nonstop from the end of August through December of filming hunts and traveling around the US. I'm not going out of the country this year, which I'm actually really excited about. There's so many amazing places to hunt in the US that I haven't explored yet that I don't really feel the need to go overseas all that much right now. I'm just excited to explore other states in the West and place exotic hunts that I didn't even know existed in the US. But this summer, I'm just going to be doing a lot of fly fishing, some bow fishing, anything outdoors. And then, what people don't see behind the scenes is when you have a show, you have a lot of office work, and the summertime is a lot of catch up for office work and sponsorship contracts and stuff like that before we start rolling into season 9 of Skullbound. But I'm looking forward to just the nice weather here in the Bitterroot Valley, getting out and fly fishing a bit. The 4th of July always kind of marks a good time to start bow fishing in a lot of the lakes here in Montana, as well as across the US. I'm a huge bow fisherman. And so, yep, that's what my plans are. Nothing too exciting, just to enjoy the beautiful weather and the great outdoors.
I love it. I actually tried my hand at bow fishing this last year when I went and visited my friend out in North Dakota.
How did you do?
What a hoot.
It's so
I
much
missed.
Oh, that's okay. Because with bow fishing, you can miss and miss and miss and miss, and you just reel back up and you start again. It is so, I don't care if it's carp or something super simple like that. And mind you, carp are an invasive species and they're ruining our water systems.
Right.
It's a win-win. I don't care if it's carp or alligators. Bow fishing is so much fun. I have been friends with the founders, AMS Bow Fishing, because they're from Wisconsin. My girlfriend introduced me to them probably 15, 20 years ago. So I have been bow fishing ever since I met Jeff and Cindy Braun, and it's just a passion. Last year, I arrowed my biggest alligator gar in Texas, and it was by far one of my highlights of my hunting life. Like, bow fishing is so much fun. So I'm really looking forward to getting out there again this summer.
I was actually just looking at a picture of that sucker that you took. That thing was monster.
Yeah, it was so awesome. And like anything, if you've been hunting long enough, you have those moments where it's just depressing and sad and things didn't go right. Well, the day before I got that fish, I missed a giant gar that rolled right by our flat bottom boat. We'd worked so hard to get back into this river that had all these down trees and it was just a mess. We couldn't take the big boat back there, so we took a flat bottom back there to see if we could get back there. We finally did. I missed a big gar. I was so depressed. And the next day we went back in there and I arrowed just that beautiful beast. And it was seriously so exciting. That episode is on My Outdoor TV right now if you want to go back in and find it. But the year before that, we had gotten a really big one as well. But my arrow wasn't the first one to strike it. I was just backup. But this year my arrow got into that fish. I was with Buck Medley. So if anyone knows Crazy Buck Medley, that guy makes anything fun. He's the Texas Tarzan from Animal Planet, and we had just so much fun, and it was so exciting to have a redemption gar.
That's so cool. Yeah, for anyone out here that's never tried bow fishing before, it's a hoot.
It is. It really is.
Absolute hoot.
And they make really easy packages. AMS makes a nice package where it's literally ready to hit the water. It's a bow. It's kind of it's like a Matthews bow designed for kids, that's adjustable. Kids can use it up to adults. You can adjust the poundage. It has a reel with the string on it. The arrows come with it. It's like ready to hit the water, and you don't have to mess with your regular archery hunting bow.
Right, which once that's dialed in, it's hard to mess with.
Yeah, it's so easy and so much fun. And the beauty of it is you can miss, reel back up, and get back at it. It's so much fun.
That's so cool. So I've been following you along, and you said earlier when we were talking before we started recording, you're actually going to be doing a predator hunt, a coyote hunt coming up.
I am. I'm going to be in the beautiful state of Utah. Utah, I have to just give props to Utah. So Utah is one of those states that truly understands the benefits of managing the predators. A lot of the criticism from people with predator hunting, people will say, I don't kill anything I don't eat. Well, the truth of the story is that there are a lot of predators out there that are eating the ungulates that we love to hunt, the white-tailed deer, the mule deer, the antelope, and whether it's coyotes or wolves or bear or bobcat or mountain lion, predators are eating the ungulates, which of course that's how it works, right? That's nature at its finest. But when there are too many predators, it does too much damage on the mule deer and the whitetail and all the other ungulates. And so Utah is a state that actually offers a bounty on the coyotes. I believe it's $50 a coyote. We're not, of course, going just to have a bounty on them, but we're going to help out a ranch, RNK Hunting, which is an amazing outfitter that I've hunted a bunch with. I take a lot of veterans hunting there. They have incredible mule deer bucks, beautiful herds of elk, and they're letting us on to do a little bit of predator management. So we'll be hunting with a bunch of the Fox Pro guys. We're hunting with John Bear and Dobie Bat and his wife Tracy, who is a cancer survivor. I'm an amazing barrel racer. So it'll be really fun to tell her story of battling cancer and having hunting be truly one of the things that keeps her going. And she's found motivation in it, like you being a new hunter, be able to tell her story with a fun coyote hunt. So we're leaving on Tuesday morning for that. And that'll be on next season of Skullbound.
That is so cool. So one of the things that really drew me to hunting, on top of the fact that just being a huge gun advocate, is I could hunt coyotes year round. Here in the state of Washington, you just need a hunting license and then you're good to go out and shoot coyotes. Well,
Right.
Being a football coach, basketball coach, track and lacrosse, and I was doing all sorts of different things. I could get out and hunt coyotes. And one of the things that someone asked me one time was like, well, man, how can you justify shooting these animals if you're not going to eat it?
Right.
And I was like, well, I take the fur, I tan the hides and all that, but it's a great question. What do you do when you have someone to ask you that?
Well, I explained to them the idea of predator management, that when the coyotes, think about it like this, a deer will have one, maybe two, offspring in a season, fawns. Coyotes can have huge, just like a dog, they can have big litters, not as big as a typical dog, but they can easily have 3, 4, 5, even more pups. Well, those pups in a year are breeding, and then those pups are breeding. And if you don't manage them, there's simply too many of them on the landscape. And then think about it, how nature works. A doe will actually tuck her fawn in the long grass and hide her while she goes off to feed, or they'll duck down. They're easy pickings for a predator like a coyote. And it's just about balancing, and it's about managing that ecosystem. And when there are too many coyotes, they're simply doing too much damage on the ungulate populations. And a lot of people don't even understand how much the states believe in that. Like Montana Fish and Game actually hires sharpshooters to go out and take care of wolves, coyotes, um, off the landscape because they're hard to hunt. A lot of people don't take the time to do predator management on their properties. I know a lot of ranchers that hire private helicopter pilots and shooters to manage their coyotes, and you're never going to eliminate coyotes. That's not the end goal. The goal is just to manage them so that everything else can thrive. And no, we don't eat them. I mean, I know Steven Ranella, I believe, tried to eat them on cedar.
Him and Remy Warren tried it.
How successful that was. But at the same time, it is necessary, even though we're not eating them, for the balance of it all. I've done some really cool things with the coyotes that I've hunted, though. I have a couple of coyote furs that are collars, that are magnetic, that are interchangeable, that I wear with different shirts and jackets. You can make pillows. I have a bunch of them hanging on my walls, and my whole house is wildlife decor, So, the hides, you can tan them, sell them, turn them in for bounty. It's not that it's useless. It's a much needed management tool. And if we hunters aren't going to go out there and do our part in predator managing, then the states are left up to that, which costs a lot of the dollars out of the budget, which can go for other different wildlife management resources. So,
right.
It's educating people to understand the balance of it all. And while wildlife management, it's not an exact science. Every year is different. Weather plays a part of it. Human intervention plays a part of it. But we as hunters, if you love to hunt deer, then you'll really seriously consider doing some predator management.
Yeah. It's kind of like correlating it to fishing for carp, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You have to manage our waters. You have to manage our lands.
Yeah.
Nature's not going to balance itself in that manner.
It doesn't balance itself out. That's been proven time and time again. And as we, as a population of human beings, expand across the country, we are expanding into the wildlife. We're expanding into those resources. I don't know about you, but I look around my area where I live right now in the Bitterroot Valley, and there's a whole brand new subdivision on the hill across from me that wasn't there a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're expanding and we're developing into these wildlife places that we need to take an active part in managing that wildlife, the habitat, and how it all works together.
Yeah, and ultimately, let's just talk about it. It's fun.
Oh yeah,
like calling a coyote, tricking a wild animal to come to you is the best thing ever.
It really is, and it's definitely not a given. One of the really cool things we're doing next week is we're hunting with dogs. They're mountain curs, and they have been trained to actually go out, and once they see or hear the coyote, they go out and they entice the coyote to come back to the hunters. It's so much fun. The first time I ever did it was with a buddy of mine. His name's Levi Johnson here in Montana.
Yep, dogging with Levi.
Dogging with Levi. He's actually starting his new channel on Carbon TV as well. He's got some great videos up on YouTube if you want to go check out and see what dogging is all about. But he's trained his cur dogs to lure the coyotes back to the hunter, and it's so much fun. And it's actually quite a benefit to the hunters. You can move around more. The coyotes get so fixated on the dogs, especially right now. They're protective of their dens right now. They're very territorial right now. They're aggressive right now. So they want to know who's in my neighborhood. And they'll see these other dogs and they'll go out, and the dogs know to kind of entice them and kind of go up to them, but not quite get in a fight, turn around and come back to the hunters. And the coyotes come and follow them in, and it's just so much fun. It's a challenge to film because it's often a lot of action going on, but it is so much fun, and I'm really looking forward to next week.
Oh man, I can't wait for the opportunity to get out and do that. Just like bird hunting, or even when people run cougars or mountain lions with hounds, watching the animals work and do what they're meant to do is so impressive.
It really is. And you brought up a good point of how much the dogs love it. It is fun to watch, and to watch the dogs' excitement. And it's a good segue to get into the topic of hunters, we need to band together stronger as hunters. There's so much diversity right now. I see it on social media, of people kind of critiquing each other, ripping on each other. If they only knew the forces that are going on behind the scenes to take away our hunting rights. I work with the Sportsmen's Alliance, who've really opened up my eyes to what's going on in the court systems. I mean, there are bills in place all the time to ban dogs from hunting, not just ban the hunt in and of itself, like bear hunting with dogs or mountain lion hunting. There are bills that are put in place every year to stop dog hunting, bird hunting, pheasant hunting, duck hunting. It's ridiculous. This is what these dogs have in their DNA. They absolutely love it. And there are so many anti-hunting groups that are very, very large and very lucrative. They raise a lot of money and they try to stop what we love and stop even the act of dogs being involved in hunting because they think it's cruel. And no, they absolutely live for it, whether it's coyote hunting or bear hunting. These dogs live to be in the outdoors and chase game or birds.
They were meant for it. Just like we as humans are meant to be out in the wild and provide. That's what they do. It's beautiful.
I agree. I agree. I'm a very spiritual person. I'm a God-fearing woman who loves this country and loves our hunting heritage. And it's only in the last, few decades that this whole concept of anti-hunting has even come about. And one of the things I love about hunting is just a feeling of connection to how life used to be, how hard life used to be. Take away the last, century, right, of the modernization of the world, of cars and planes and vehicles and technology and cell phones and all that. Everybody lived off the land. They lived off wild game and fishing, and hunting was just a part of life. In fact, it was celebrated when people had a success out in the field. Yep. And it's one way that really makes me feel connected to the earth, connected to how everything balances together, and connected to my past, centuries before me, of how people lived off the land and gathered their own food. And not only that, like, there's this big organic movement right now. And I think it's a beautiful thing if people understood the reverence that we hunters have for wildlife and for habitat and for the hunt. Hollywood, global Hollywood, does not portray us like that. They portray us as the, sitting in our pickup trucks with a wad of chew in our lower lip, shooting from the truck and trigger happy, love to kill. That's not what hunters are about. And, it's important, I think, that all of us open up that dialogue, especially on our social medias with people, to teach non-hunters who may not have ever been exposed to it, why we hunt and what it's all about, and the benefits of wildlife conservation that comes from hunters.
Absolutely. The point of why I even started this podcast was to reimagine and reinvent hunting as we know it.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I'm trying to spearhead when it comes to recruiting new hunters and also changing the thoughts and minds and perspectives of current hunters already to be better ambassadors for what we love.
Right. I mean, I was talking to Patrick Kilpatrick, who is a Hollywood actor. This is probably 5 or 6 years ago. We spoke together at a conference in Wisconsin at UW-Whitewater, my university. And he talks about global Hollywood. And that's sort of just an easy way to say that, things that come out of Hollywood, whether it be movies, music, fashion, tends to spread across our country, right? And global Hollywood does hunters no service, no justice. They portray us in movies. I think, what was it? Was it Wolverine that I watched recently where, the opening scene, there's a hunter in his pickup shooting from the truck, beer bottles fall out, right. When he opens his door. I sometimes have a hard time remembering that I'm not the norm, that my passion for hunting and fishing and the way my dad raised me, everybody wasn't raised like that. Like, there's a lot of people who may not have ever had a family member who hunts, so they've had no introduction to it. They don't know. And so the only visualization of a hunter they're getting is through movies or TV shows or whatever. And it's just not portrayed well. And that's why I think it's so important that all of us hunters, through our own social media, through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that we're cleaning up our field photos, that we're talking about why we're out there, that we're, showing the world the beauty in it all. And not only that, of the fact that our hunting dollars are what pays for wildlife management in this country. That is such a disconnect. People don't understand that through the purchasing of our hunting licenses and our tags and our conservation groups and the Pittman-Robertson Act, which is a tax back in 1938, the Pittman-Robertson Act invoked a tax on guns and ammunition, which has now since branched into other hunting products. That is taxed, and that those tax dollars, which is in the billions, goes towards wildlife management in this country, which in turn is paid for by hunters. And people just don't understand that connection. But I think it's all of our responsibility to start talking about that more.
Yeah, I totally agree. So one of the things that really frustrates me here in the state of Washington is that all hunter's license and fishing license goes into the state general fund here.
Oh, yeah.
And it just drives me nuts. It's like the people that are directly using the land don't even get the full benefit of it back.
Yeah, I know every state manages its budget differently, but let's take, for example, the Fish and Game departments or the Department of Natural Resources. A lot of their budget is directly revolving from hunters' dollars. For example, here in Montana, when a lot of our bighorn sheep come down with pneumonia, which is very popular within the sheep, they've got to often be dispatched and then new herds relocated. Hunters' dollars are the ones paying for that. There was a recent mountain lion study here in the Bitterroot Valley, which you can go on to the Montana Fish and Game and read all about it. They wanted to kind of get a better grasp of how many mountain lions there are. And what they found out over the 3-year study is that they weren't having a lot of recapture. They were a lot of new cats. And they determined that the population was 30% plus in overcapacity of the carrying capacity of the land, meaning there's too many mountain lions taking out too many elk, too many deer in the course of a year, and that we need to take out more mountain lion. And the same thing goes with wolf and coyote and other predators, that a lot of those studies and the science behind it all is funded by hunters as well as our conservation groups. And that is just such a missed message. It's part of the reason why since season 1, 9 years ago on Skullbound TV, that we started doing conservation minutes within our show to help educate. The downside of that is most people who watch my show are hunters. So
right.
Like,
or you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, kind of preaching to the choir. Whereas our social medias almost do a little bit because, there's friends of friends, and you can often see things in the search engines on social media where you may not typically be a hunter, but you see hunting, other friends of friends hunting posts. And we just have to do a better job of conveying the why and conveying of how we are all truly animal lovers.
Yes, absolutely. I was training for this last archery season last year, and I was shooting my bow I live in a cul-de-sac currently, and I was shooting from the cul-de-sac into my garage because the neighborhood that I live in, that's all I can do.
Yeah.
And a neighbor in the cul-de-sac came out, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I'm practicing for this coming September. I'm going on my very first archery elk hunt." And they're like, "You're going to kill the elk?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I plan on, harvesting it, taking the meat, feed my family, not buying beef for this entire year."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, no, I love animals." I looked at her and I was like, "So do I."
Right.
I just love them in all manners, not just to be pets,
right.
But I love them for food and clothing and whatever manner.
Well, what people don't understand who like your neighbor is that we're all animal lovers, and there needs to be a certain amount of that herd taken out every year to keep that herd sustainable. There needs to be a lot of young recruitment where the fawns can grow up to be teenagers, and those teenagers can become mature bulls and cows or does and bucks. There needs to be that, and hunters do there has to be hunting. If you added up all of the tags that are notched in the course of a year through every state, you'd see the tens of thousands of animals that are harvested every year that need to be. There needs to be an amount taken out for that herd to be sustainable. And it just can be a really hard concept for antis and non-hunters to understand, but we definitely need to open up that dialogue with our neighbors and the people at the grocery store and like people on social media. We need to open up that dialogue and teach them that, yeah, we're animal lovers too.
Right. One of the interesting perspectives that I feel like I bring to the hunting community is before I became a hunter, I was a huge backpacker and hiker, but I actually used to work at REI for a long time.
Oh, yeah?
And so I worked at REI and I was a school teacher, and teaching is known as more of a liberal field. And, so the people that you surround yourself with are not typically pro hunting.
Right.
Well, so I would work at REI and do all these backpacking adventures and all sorts of things. And I remember it was 2 years ago, I went into REI before my very first backcountry hunt, in which I took my first animal, and that was a black bear.
Right.
And I remember going in, and one of the big questions that people ask when you're in there is like, oh, what's your next adventure you're going on? I was like, man, guys, you won't believe it. I'm going to be doing exactly what I do every August, only this time I'm carrying a gun and I'm hunting black bears. And these people dropped their jaws and were like, and walked away.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm doing everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm just taking it further, and I'm becoming a participant in nature rather than just an observer.
Right, exactly. And what people don't understand with black bears, for example, and trust me, I hunt black bear more than any other big game species every year. If you boots on the ground, days in, days out, black bear, because Montana, we can hunt all spring and all fall for black bear. So, and then I only live an hour from Idaho. So I'm running my own baits in Idaho this year. Plus, I just got back from Saskatchewan, so like I literally bear hunt more than any other big game species. And I never would have thought I would say that 20 years ago. But what people don't understand is those black bears are, I agree with them. They're gorgeous. I love to see bears in the wild. I think they're an amazing creature. But they're so overpopulated in specific areas. But because the general population doesn't see them as much, because they do tend to be a backcountry animal, they don't understand that, these bears need to be managed like anything else. And I have a biologist friend who I was recently talking to who's a bear biologist, but also very pro bear hunting. And understands the necessity of it as a management tool, who said, what people can't connect with is bears, they have incredible senses of smell. And when elk cows are hiding their calves or deer are hiding their fawns in the grass, it's such easy pickings for a bear. And I use the example of Wisconsin, my home state. There was a elk herd released in the Clam Lake area back in I think it was early 90s. And that herd, it took so long. In fact, last year was the very first elk hunt they had, when it was supposed to take place a lot sooner than 30 years later. But it took so long to establish that herd because the black bears were doing such damage on the calf population. And it's hard for people to understand that, but they just need to be managed like anything. And the meat is delicious.
Agreed.
I love bear meat. People that hunt bear and don't eat the meat need to understand that you've got to just prepare it right. You got to trim that fat. You've got to, like what we do is we take the back straps off. We have all 4 hams smoked. And then that smoked bear meat is 100% safe, no threat of trichinosis because of the being uncooked, and it's delicious. It's like an Easter ham that's like the best tasting smoked Easter ham you've ever had. It's delicious, and there's so many ways to prepare it. And so what's the difference between a deer hunter who's kind of against predator management or bent against bear hunting when they're eating that deer? Well, I'm eating that bear and I'm doing the deer a favor. It comes from people of not being educated about the balance of it all.
Right. What's really interesting is I feel like bears also resemble dogs. And I think that is also like people apply their idea of what their pet looks like to that animal.
It could be. It's that is a lot of why people don't understand wolf hunting. And wolf hunting is the exact same thing. Wolves are populating too fast, meaning they're going to have a pack of pups versus one or two like ungulates. That pack can have a pack in a year. And look at what's happened in the West, and that could be a whole nother podcast.
Right.
Just take Yellowstone. Let's just take Yellowstone, for example. When the elk herd used to be over 19,000 strong, and now they believe the elk herd, the count is there's a lot of different varying accounts of what the herd is at right now, anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000. But that is a tremendous drop. The moose population is almost non-existent in Yellowstone. And a lot of that is due to the wolves going unmanaged, which now they can manage them in and around the park areas, just like we can manage them here in Montana. The downside of it is that they're incredibly clever. They're super hard to hunt.
Right.
It's a happen chance animal that if you're out the guys I know that have gotten wolves have gotten them on a happen chance when they're already elk hunting or deer hunting and they come across a wolf.
An opportunity animal.
Yeah, exactly. They're just super, super tough to hunt. But it's just all about balance, whether it's wolves, bears, cats, you name it.
Yeah, you would think in a place like Yellowstone, the elk herds would just be ginormous, right? No pressure, whatever.
Yeah.
But here it is that what it was this winter, or when was it? A wolf that was within the park left the park, got shot and killed, and there was like this huge uproar about that wolf dying.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, the mainstream media does us no favors. They spin these stories like the Cecil the lion story, and everybody knows, anyone who understands conservation understands the amount of damage that story did on Africa, on lion hunting, on the people there. It's just sad. What is, to simplify it, when there's someone willing to pay the money for a lion tag in Africa, that money goes towards anti-poaching patrols or wildlife management. There's nothing else to sustain those budgets. It's the same thing as elephant hunting and all these other big five hunting in Africa. It's so misunderstood, and mainstream media ought to be ashamed of themselves. They don't ever write the stories of, once the poor dentist was thrown under the bus and his life ruined because he shot Cecil the lion. They don't come out with the story years later where they had to do a cull, which is they had to go in and kill a lot of adult lions because they were overrunning the area and becoming a nuisance animal and getting into the villages. And, it's just so misunderstood. And we as hunters owe it to the masses, if you will, to start stating that dialogue. There's one good place, like right off the top of my head. I just had a meeting with a team of Blood Origins. Blood Origins is, you can find it on Amazon Prime, and just Google in the search Blood Origins. And it's short, mini 5 to 10 minute episodes from different people of why we hunt. But right now on the Blood Origins social media, they're talking all about Africa. And it's a great place to find some education and knowledge about what is going on in Africa and how mainstream media isn't doing Africa or its people or its wildlife any favors.
Yeah. The concept of this African hunting, people are like, how could you? And it's like, well, wait a minute. You are just unfamiliar with it. Let's bring it all the way back to something that's relative to you in America, gun control.
Right.
What if all of a sudden, so I'm a school teacher, right? I'm a physical education teacher. back in the day, your schools used to have gun clubs, archery clubs, and all sorts of different things. And my father-in-law used to shoot a 22 in his gym at Lincoln High School in Tacoma. And yet, where's that taught?
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, as soon as there's an unfamiliarity with something,
Yep.
it is causing people to, well, it's allowing room for fear to creep in.
Oh yeah, it's totally
And
mongering. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yep.
opinions versus perspectives
Yep.
is a huge thing.
Yep. Yeah, the whole year, yeah, it's perfectly equated to the gun control issue. I mean, when guns are in the hands of good people, then there are less bad people willing to do the bad things. It's the same thing as hunting in Africa, for example. If there are hunters already out there willing to pay top dollar for that experience, well, those dollars are going to help manage the poaching patrols. If there aren't hunters there, then bad's going to happen. The poaching is the problem, just like the crime is the problem. And it's a complicated issue, but there's a lot out there. If people are truly interested in finding out the whys and the hows and the knowledge behind hunting or guns, or there's a lot of great resources out there. One of the best is, actually, just thought of it, on the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation website. There's a link up at the top of the page that's 25 reasons hunting is conservation. For all you teachers out there, that is such a beautiful, easy post to print off and start that dialogue with your students, or even with non-hunters, of why should I become a hunter? Why is hunting a good thing? Well, there are more animals and birds and habitat in this country because of hunters. And that link on the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation's website does a really good example of explaining why.
That's something I'm going to have to get in my school.
Yeah.
This last year and over the last probably 5 years, I've been noticing that there's been a huge decline of interest in at least middle school age children not being as interested in team sports, and they're really interested in individual sports. And so I did my best in trying to get archery in my school for this next year. So we won a grant through the National Archery in Schools program.
Yeah.
And we're doing archery in our schools next year. But man, talk about a lot of people being like uncomfortable and be like, I don't know if this is something that we should be doing.
Well, I'm telling you, Matthews has really pioneered that. It's funny. I got a cute story. I was coyote hunting in the middle of nowhere, Montana. It's called Winnett, Montana, with my buddy Levi. It's like population 400. It's like super duper small. And we were right near Winnett, just north of there. I can't remember the name of the town. Town is a strong word. It like has a gas station. That's it. And he asked me, one of Levi's friends that we were hunting on his property asked me if I would stop into the schoolhouse. Now, mind you, this is a one-room schoolhouse. They still exist. And for like maybe 10 kids, everywhere from kindergarten up through, I think, 6th or 7th grade. And I happened to walk in during archery class. And I thought, how great is this? They had someone from, actually a guest speaker there from Fish and Game, and they were all shooting bows in the backyard of this little one-room schoolhouse. And I thought, this is the kind of thing that needs to be in every school, and I know Matthews has done a tremendous job of getting that program into a lot of the schools. And it's such a good thing for kids that not only can they learn, the skills and to have fun with it, but like you said, make that uncomfortable-ish feeling comfortable. And it's the same thing with guns. When people are uncomfortable about even talking about the gun issue, that's when problems are going to occur. We got to talk about it. We've got to, support it. We've got to make it safe for everybody. We've got to talk about it talk about it so that people can understand that the more good people that have guns in their home and guns on themselves, or they conceal carry, the safer this world is going to be. Because
Right.
The gun laws don't stop the bad people. They don't care about the laws. They don't care about gun-free zones. That makes no difference to someone who's mentally ill and wants to cause harm on other people.
Yeah. Well, isn't the concept of knowledge is power?
Yeah.
The more you know, the better off and the more informed you're going to be able to be to make healthy decisions for yourself.
Yeah, it really is. And unfortunately, I don't want to be negative here, but some people are so focused in on their point of view that they're not willing to let that knowledge come in. I mean, to me, I'm blessed to have such a variety of friends. I have just as many non-hunter friends as I do hunting friends, and we have open discussions and open dialogue. And I had a non-hunter friend come to my house this year. It was a friend of a friend, and we were all going to go on her very first shed hunt. And she looked around my house and she goes, I just have to ask you, like, what's up with the mountain lion? Because, like, literally right above my head right now, I have a full body mountain lion mount behind my couch. And she said, I don't understand. Help me understand. And we had the most beautiful discussion about predator hunting and mountain lions and how they're in overabundance here in the Bitterroot Valley, and how, they eat too many deer and elk, and then those herds decline. And she got it. She's like, oh, thanks. Like, I totally understand that. That makes a lot of sense. And we just have to open up that dialogue.
Yeah. So tell me this. I've kind of come to an idea that most hunters stay quiet, whether it's about their hunting location, about mentoring others, or just in opening up to strangers. It's such a thing that's passed down generation to generation. So if you haven't been in our hunting camp, I'm not going to talk with you. Do you think this is a lot to do with hunters not taking a stand for what they believe in and calling out the media and being like, no, you're doing it wrong, you're portraying us wrong, this is not actually how it is?
I don't know if I agree with that. I definitely agree with the first part that you said, that we're not willing to give up our spots. I definitely agree with that. Because it sometimes, like, especially us Western hunters, it can take a lot of time and energy and money figuring out those good spots and figuring out how to get back in there. With the use of Onyx maps now, anyone with a cell phone and the Hunt app can figure out where public land is. And so, yeah, I'll agree with you. It's hard to give up our favorite spots on that. But I don't know if I agree that people aren't willing to talk about it. I just don't think the platforms are out there. Like, there aren't mainstream news outlets willing to have open discussions. There aren't mainstream TV shows necessarily willing to portray the hunter in a positive light. There is a little light in the being shined lately that I see, like on shows like what's that show on Nat Geo? I'm having a brain freeze. Life Below Zero, for example.
Yes.
That's a very, very popular show that shows hunting and sustainable living. And there are others now that are willing to sort of test the boundaries. I was actually on an Animal Planet show 4 years ago called Invasion of, and it was just a 2-part documentary about the wild hog issue in the South, and then the fact that the ecosystems in Florida are being overrun by non-indigenous species like the Burmese python and the tegu lizard, and how hunting is a positive management tool for those invasive species. And that was on Animal Planet. And it was nice to see them show, the pros of hunting, even if it was just hog hunting and reptile hunting, and I do think there's a little bit more coming out there lately that shows the benefit of that, especially with the organic movement. But as a whole, no, I don't think mainstream media or global Hollywood is getting behind the idea of hunting. Number one, because of the relevant gun issues that are going on and everybody being so afraid to talk about guns. And number two, they've got to put a lot of energy and investment behind opening up that discussion to the masses and having credible people talk about wildlife management and talk about how hunting is a necessity. It's not just a pastime in this country. It's not just something fun people do. It's a necessity for the United States model of conservation is actually modeled in a lot of other countries because it's such a success. But mainstream isn't talking about that. I'm hoping that's something you can change, and all the other people who have a passion can start changing that with our.
That is something I'm taking it on as a personal mission to change.
Yeah.
I already have plans on connecting with the local TV stations here in the Seattle area about advertising hunting and bringing it from a perspective of what it can do for your life and not just the organic meat thing. Because I think that is, even though very beneficial, people will bring the argument in, well, if you're eating organic meat but everything else is not organic that you're eating, then really what is the point? And so talking about it as being a lifestyle and what it can do to enhance your soul and bring purpose and passion to your life and reinvigorate a person who has lost their way, and how you can find yourself in the wilderness and become a better person throughout it. And that is my mission, what I'm trying to do with the Soulful Hunter podcast.
I love it. I love it. And I can even add to that. Like, I have taken a lot of combat veterans out big game hunting, and it's life changing. People don't understand how nurturing nature is. It really is. I've taken 4 amputees on their very first elk hunts, and every single one of them has ended in tears. Everybody crying tears of joy, just tears of accomplishment. And like, these are men who have lost from 1 to 3 limbs, and they're on a hardcore backcountry elk hunt. And the idea of the fact that they can get into nature and just get reconnected, there's an energy to it. There's definitely a, sixth sense about being in the wild and being in nature and
absolutely
being connected to the land and connected how we all used to live, and, feeling the breeze on your face or watching that creek trickle down and realize that, we're all on this planet for such a short time, and that whether we're here or not, things continue to flow and grow, that breeze continues to blow, and all of that can just be grounding for people. And I've literally watched men like come back alive during a hunt, and it's something that I am very passionate about, just like you, and wanting to portray that nature is healing and it's encompassing, and there's so many aspects. Where I just posted this on Instagram this week, where else can you get that dichotomy of emotions, or that spectrum of, of peacefulness? You're out in the sun is shining on your face, the breeze is blowing, you're looking at the gorgeous mountains or the woods, you're feeling relaxed, from that to incredible adrenaline rushes, or even frustration or sadness one minute to elation the next. There's nothing else that gives you that spectrum of emotion.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. You are speaking my language, Jana. See, this is why you and I were meant to be best friends and meant to record podcasts together, because you just hit on so many different topics that I'm doing specific podcasts just about.
Oh, cool.
And I'm so excited about this, but let's break this down. I was trying to take notes on what you were just saying.
Okay.
I think a lot of the times people have it in their heads that it's nature versus nurture.
No.
I disagree. I think it's nature and nurture.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, be careful, because people will think you're talking about like other topics with nature versus nurture. And no, like that's just it. Actually, it's funny. That's the point. Hunting doesn't matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter if you're old or young. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what profession you are. It doesn't matter what your personal life is like. It doesn't matter. When you are in the mountains or in the woods, you are just you. I don't care if you're a 5-year-old little girl in Texas hunting, or you're an 85-year-old man who, has World War II stories and you're climbing the mountains. It doesn't matter. It's a even playing field for
Absolutely.
for everybody. And it takes all different kinds, all different skill sets. You battle weather, you battle your personal, the little voices in your head that say, I
Yep.
can't get over to that next mountain before dark, or I can't, this is too cold, I can't handle it, or whatever those little voices are telling you, you're battling those. It doesn't matter who you are, but if you immerse yourself in a hunt, you're going to experience a spectrum of emotions that I really don't know what else in this life can give you.
No, it can't be matched.
No.
And that is why we need to spread the good news about people need to take up arms and become hunters.
Yeah.
It'll change your life.
No, I'm telling you, I had the most unique conversation about this is probably 6 or 7 years ago. I was flying on a flight on Delta. I sat next to, it's really funny. I just remember how it went down. I got in, buckled up. I look over to my passenger sitting next to me. It's a African-American gentleman, probably in his late 40s, early 50s. And he said, hi, how are you? And I said, good, how are you? Oh, good, long day. And he said, flying back, I forgot, he was flying to or from somewhere, but he mentioned that he was a professor. So I said, oh, you're a professor. Where are you a professor? And he said, oh, McGill University. And he said, what do you do? And I thought, oh, this is going to be good. I said, well, I host a hunting television show. And the first thing out of his mouth was, you're not one of those NRA nuts, are you? I go, as a matter of fact, I am. And we had the most beautiful 2-hour dialogue about hunting and guns. And this gentleman was a vegan, African-American professor from McGill, brilliant-minded, open-minded, grew up inner city Chicago, and had never really thought about the perspective that I brought to that conversation of how nature is healing, how guns can be a good thing, how learning gun safety can bring confidence and skill set, how gathering your meat off the land can be so not just sustainable living, but like, again, proud accomplishment. I can do this. And we started talking, and he said, a lot of the kids from, inner city Chicago and a lot of other, cities have never even seen a cow, for crying out loud. They just don't even know what nature really holds for them. And he said, it's too bad there aren't more programs to get these kids into nature. And I said, you're right. It is too bad. And I got an email from him the next day that said, I just have to tell you you've been on my mind. And that conversation that we had is intriguing. It's the first time in a long time I really feel like I need to change my perspective on things, or at least open up my mind on things. Now, mind you, let me just say this. That's not the norm. Like it is very rare that I've had a beautiful dialogue with an anti-hunter.
Right.
I've been called every name under the sun and gotten death threats left and right. But this was just such a unique, beautiful moment that I talk about a lot, because we all need to open up our minds. We all need to, that's the beauty of this amazing country that we live in, is that we have the freedom to speak our minds and the freedom to gather our own opinions. And it was just, it just sparked an interest. And that guy, hopefully that man went back to his university and even talked about the conversation with other people to maybe just create a little bit of a door opening. That's what we need. We need people who've not been exposed to hunting, who've not been exposed to guns, that think guns are just a bad thing to commit a crime with. We need to have these talks about the beauty of what it all holds.
Yeah. And I just want to follow up and attest to what you said right there, is some people have never even seen cows.
Yeah.
That's true. I had someone move into the high school that I went to, and the first time we rode the bus together, and he was like, what the heck is that out in those fields? And I was like, that's a cow, man. Come on. You never seen one of those? He was like, no.
What?
It blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I even get like this myself. I tend to forget that as I'm looking at my living room wall and there's 11 heads staring back at me, that's not normal. That's not, I forget that, this is my world and this is what I love and this is what I'm passionate about, but it might not be everybody's norm. And I think we all need to remember that. Like I said, And that's what Blood Origins is trying to do. It's trying Blood Origins, which is, like I said, on Amazon Prime, YouTube. It's trying to show what hunting is without showing the hunt, without showing the field photos of a dead animal, and trying to, from a different perspective, show everybody what we're all about. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I talk about on this podcast a lot about hunting is not the trigger squeeze.
No.
The hunting is everything that leads up to the time in which you actually go on your adventure, and then it's everything on the return all the way until that meat is finally gone.
That's why I've got a million t-shirts in my closet. It's about living. That's my slogan. It's about living. People think hunting is about killing. It's not. Yes, that is part of the process. It is actually can be a sad part of the process. Even for me, 30 years later, it can be sad, but it's part of the process. And really, it's truly all about living and encompassing the lifestyle of fresh air, of nature, of reconnecting to the planet, understanding habitat and the herds. And not only that, the camaraderie of it all. Like, in today's age, when we have such a technological age, everybody's on their cell phone. Go to a restaurant and look around. It's sad how many people are looking down. They're looking down at their cell phones and not engaging in conversation. Half the reason I'm looking so forward to this Utah hunt is I'm going to hunt with amazing people, and we're going to laugh our butts off, and we're going to sit around the campfire at night and share stories, and we're going to pull out our photos and talk about the other adventures we've been on, and we're going to inspire one another to go on more adventures. And that camaraderie is a huge aspect of it that I think our society is losing.
Yeah, we were meant to sharpen each other.
Oh, you just, yep. As iron sharpens iron, so
the countenance of one friend to another.
Yep. That's my.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is my favorite biblical saying. Yep.
See, you and I were just meant to connect, and we're going to sharpen each other right here, right now, and from here on out.
I love it.
One of the cool things that you keep talking about is the spiritual aspect and the connection. And one of the things I think people forget is the energy flow that just is nature. And not to get all wiggy on people, because some people can't handle conversations like that, but energy is a transfer from one thing to another. And it is us through nature, and it is the way the sun comes down to hits plants. And it's a circle of life.
No, dude. I got goosebumps right now. Okay, get a load of this. This is no joke. I've never talked about this on a podcast yet. So you're right. Energy is it's real. It's as real as the radio waves that are floating through the air right now. All you need is a radio, right? You turn on that radio, it picks up those waves. Energy is the same thing. It's the same thing. We all have an energy. Anything living has an energy. And I was just absolutely reinforced with this 2 weeks ago. I was on a hunt in Saskatchewan. I went up bear hunting with my good friends, Paul and Dee Servey from Utah. We had been planning this hunt 6 months. It was going to be Dee's very first bear hunt, and she's a bear lover. And so she's had a little bit of ambivalence about the hunt even before we went on it, because I love bears so much, but I really want to hunt them. And like, how am I going to feel taking a bear's life, which is all we should all explore. If you feel that way, talk about it, like learn from other hunters and, explore. Everybody's different. We all have different feelings. Well, her father passed away the day before the hunt, and he had been sick in hospice for a couple weeks and taken a turn for the worse. She thought she was going to have to cancel the hunt, but her family did sort of an intervention with her and said, you're not canceling. You are absolutely going to go on this hunt. Your dad would want you to go. We all want you to go. We want you to reconnect. You're going to be in nature for solid 5 days, sitting in the woods. You need to go. And Dee is a very spiritual person herself, a complete believer in people's energies. And she's just an amazing human being. Her and her husband, Paulie, are. So we go up on the hunt in Saskatchewan, and she is literally feeling the presence of God, of her father who was with her, she was so appreciative of being up there and noticing the beauty in everything because of the encouragement of her family for being up there. every single fish she caught, every single new bay we went into with the boats, because we fished all morning and hunted in the evenings. The first night she sat out, she had bears all around her. She was we're sitting on the ground, mind you. This is all ground hunting with no blinds. And you're literally sitting and having bears move around the woods right like within 10 yards of you. It's intense. It's
Yeah.
very intense. And she came back that first night just shaking with tears of excitement. Like you wouldn't believe it. We had a sow chase a boar off 5 yards running by us. We almost got knocked over. There were cubs around. It was just insane. Long story short is I just got reiterated that energy is so real. She arrowed a monster boar the second night. I arrowed a bear that same night. When we ended up meeting that night, I left my bear to go help her take care of hers. When we met up, we just had tears of joy. And she was just, I've never seen more reverence in a hunter than her. She was crying tears of joy. She just felt like her dad was with her. She felt like she actually stalked that bear on the ground with her bow. And I think this was only her second bow kill. And she shot that bear at 10 yards off the ground with her bow. And, you know, she was fearful and excited. And she said, I just kept praying over and over, Dad, be with me. Help me keep it together. Help me do everything right. Help guide my arrows so that it's true. She was at full draw 4 different times. And then finally on that 5th time, she drew back and he turned and gave her a shot. Her arrow sunk perfectly. It was a quick death. She was just exactly what I think a hunter should be, is reverent and feeling the emotions and feeling the joy and feeling the sadness that that bear gave his life. But I'm going to use every ounce of him in appreciation. And it was amazing. And it was just, ever since that, every single day I'm thinking about that hunt and what it truly meant to her and it meant to me being there. It was an emotional experience. It was an energy. And she felt closer on that hunt to God, closer to her father who had passed away, closer to her husband and her friends. And that's an energy, and that is real. And that kind of thing, those kind of experiences comes from hunts often. And it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing story first and foremost, and it's sad that she lost her father. But I have a similar story, similar like that happened this last September on my archery elk hunt.
Yeah.
The week before I was leaving to go on my first hunt like this, my wife and I had a miscarriage.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And just absolutely devastated us.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I was like, all right, I can be here for you, and I'm not going to go if you need me here. But at the same time, this is something that is going to be good for the family in the long haul. And I'm not going to, first and foremost, I am choosing my wife over hunting every time. I'm going to choose my children over hunting every time. And that's one thing I think is forgotten
Right.
in this world nowadays, is that people get so selfish and they forget about what their true loves and responsibilities are.
Right.
But on that hunt, I truly believe that a part of me taking my first elk was the unborn child that I lost being with me, knowing that I told my wife before I left, I go, this one's for our baby Cash.
Mm-hmm.
And tears just welled up in my eyes the moment I arrowed that. And it was just brought me into this moment that's kind of undescribable.
Right.
It's hard to put words to.
Right. No, I totally understand what you're saying. I do. It's a beautiful thing. It's beyond the senses that we know about, right? It's beyond the 5 senses of sight, smell, touch, all those. It's beyond that. It's a realm. But people I have so many beautiful, amazing friends that are really just connected. That's the best word I can say, is that they're beautiful human souls. They don't judge other people. They just are out to have a wonderful life, to spread happiness. And all of my friends who have those qualities believe in energy. And it's simple when you think of it like this. Have you ever gone into a crowd and you meet somebody that they just are glowing, and they just have this amazing, like they just exude this love about them? Well, that's their energy. And the same goes for a negative energy. We've all met that person who was like, gee, what was wrong with them? Or why didn't they like me? Or they had a chip on their shoulder or whatever. And it may not even be from anything they said. It's the energy they carry. We all have that. And that changes from different points in our life. Like just recently, I've gone through a major transition in my life where I would say for January, February, March, my energy was way different than what it is now. And it changes, it ebbs and flows. But if there's anything that makes me feel more connected and more happy and where my energy or my vibration is at a better level, it's being out in the great outdoors. Whether I'm hunting, fishing, shed hunting, looking for morels, huckleberry hunting, it doesn't matter. It's that outdoors energy or vibration that you connect with when you're in that element.
Absolutely. No one likes an instrument out of tune.
Right. Right.
You got to get yourself in tune with your own life. And a part of that is doing the things that satisfy and settle your soul.
Amen. That's so true. It's so true. Amen. And,
Man.
yeah. And when you're more grounded, you see everybody else with eyes of love. When you're more grounded, when you are living your authentic self, you want that for everybody else. You have that energy of love and that energy of acceptance and that energy of non-judgment when you're living your authentic self and truly hunting, fishing, the great outdoors, which is just sort of an easy way to envelop all of that. The great outdoors is what keeps me authentic and what keeps me just feeling grounded and connected and a better person, a better friend, a better daughter, just a better person.
Well, I think that's one of the things that is missing for people that don't enjoy the outdoors. And we're talking even bird watchers to hikers to fishermen to whatever.
Yeah.
People that get into nature, they are missing that.
They are. They truly are. I just don't understand it. I have to remember that, like this isn't everybody's lifestyle. And I think almost everybody can understand how beautiful nature is. But what some people call nature is like Grand Central Park in New York, which is fine. At least that's a little bit of nature. I'm not judging that. But I would encourage people to push that even every year. Push that envelope. Push what nature means to you. Maybe nature to you is a walk around the block in your subdivision, which is nothing wrong with that. That's great. But push it. Maybe on the weekends, go to a state park. Maybe get on X Maps and go exploring some public land and just go for a walk. Maybe you didn't even know that there's a beautiful marshland near you that has trails in it. Or, I would just encourage people to push that outdoor envelope and what that means and get out of their comfort zone a little bit. I still do it 30 years later. I mean, I'll go out of my comfort zone where we're way back in the backcountry for, a week on end. Or like one of my favorite hunts was a do-it-yourself Alaska moose hunt where we rented the horses and we got dropped off and every day we had to get our water from the creek. And like, that was epic. It was so epic. Push that envelope. And I think the more people explore the outdoors, the greater they're going to see the benefits.
Absolutely. And one of the words that you used was authentic. And I feel like so many people don't know their authentic selves because they're distracted by society.
Oh, if that's not the culture we live in right now, that's so true. Like people are just disconnected from not only each other, but themselves. It's a world of instant gratification. You need something, Amazon Prime, boop, it's at your doorstep 2 days later. You don't even have to do your own grocery shopping today. Let's face it. If you want a movie, your kids, boom, they turn on the TV, there's a movie. Like if I wanted a movie, I had to wait till it came to the movie theater when I was a kid and wait, weeks on end. Like, it's just a world of instant gratification. You want to talk to your friend, your cell phone's in your hand. You want anything, your cell phone. You want food, it can be delivered to your doorstep in a half hour. Instant gratification. Whereas hunting isn't about, it's about hard work and planning. And, it takes a lot of effort to get that meat to your freezer. That's just one other lesson that, comes out of it all.
Yeah. We're going to shift real quick right here. And I want to ask you a question that I have a good friend of mine, Hannah. She goes by Hatchet Jane on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. I know her. I follow her.
Yeah. I think she actually ran into you on one of your hunts one time. She's an amazing person. Well, she has a very strong stance on hunter versus huntress.
Uh-huh.
and how everyone is a hunter, and she doesn't really like the term huntress. You being a female in a mostly male-dominated industry, what's your take on that? Where do you stand, and what's your feelings on
This
that?
is my take. It's evolutionary. Okay. The word huntress. Okay. This is no joke. I used to be called my email address like 15 years ago. My very first email address was thebowhuntress@yahoo.com because I was a very proud bow huntress. Even 15 years ago, I didn't know that many of them. I wasn't in the hunting industry. I just bow hunted because I loved it. I had one friend, Alyssa, who bow hunted in Wisconsin. But other than that, like, I thought we were kind of a rare breed, you know? But the word has evolved into almost a negative connotation. Some people have caught on to it, some people haven't. I personally think we need to have a little bit of understanding that it's an evolutionary process. But I'm also one of those, I'm not very easily offended. Like, in fact, I don't get offended. It's not possible to offend me, like with anything. I have a very good sense of humor. I think the world's a pretty funny place. But so it's not offensive to me at all that the word huntress is being used, but I do think it's kind of nice that it's evolving out of that to where it doesn't have to connotate male or female. We're all hunters. I still slip up sometimes and use the word huntress, but I'm 47 years old. Like I'm not 27 like the average Instagram girl. You know, I'm their mom's age, so I have a little bit different perspective. I don't think it's insulting. At the same time, I think it's kind of a fresh idea that we're merging away from that to where it doesn't necessarily have to have a connotation of male or female because I mean, females can do it just as good as guys can. I mean, I'm not one of those I am woman, hear me roar kind of chicks. No, I'm not as strong. There, you know, like I do believe men and women have physical differences. I can't pack out as much as a guy can. I might need some help, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, you know, I think in a world where equality is a wonderful thing, but I think we all have to have a bit of common sense too. Kind of like if we like the battlefield, for example, do I believe women should be in combat? No, because it puts a lot of men's lives at risk. They can't carry that man off the battlefield and then there's the whole aspect of guilt involved of men not being able to save the woman on the field. Like that is all real. I mean, I talked to combat veterans about this issue and all of them say the exact same things. It's not about inequality. But when it comes to hunter and huntress, I think it's nice that we evolve into just using the word hunter, but I'm not offended by the word huntress.
That's a great perspective right there. And I was really interested in hearing you talk about this, especially when you referred to yourself as a fisherman.
Yeah.
You know, because that often is something that's like, well, how do you call someone who fishes who's a woman?
Yeah. It's just fisherwoman just sounds weird to me. Like it's
Right?
too wordy. It doesn't flow. I'm a fisherman. Yeah. Or I use angler, you know, like, but I'm like I say, I'm kind of old school. I don't get offended, like whatever. Everybody uses different vocabulary. I mean, the South, they talk differently than us from the West or Midwesterners or whatever. I think it's important that when none of us get our undies in a bundle, that we bond together more closely and we understand that if we bonded together, we're stronger as a whole. I hate to see the trad bow hunters, trad guys fighting against the long range guys or the KUIU guys fighting against the Cryptech people. Like, I don't like to see any of that. We need to get stronger as a group. We need to bond together stronger, and we need to be a united force against those that are trying to take away what we love.
Absolutely. Preach it. Let's go. Stand on that soapbox. Let's do this.
Preach it. Preach it.
It is time to join together, drop the judgment, and start loving people.
Right. It really is. Like, kind of how I always, like, people ask me, oh, what do you think about high fence hunting? Well, honestly, it's not my cup of tea. I don't high fence hunt, but there's a lot of great benefits to it. It can get a lot. I have a lot of disabled veterans who go on the hunts. They're awesome for people who maybe are time constrained, kids. A lot of high fence ranches are huge where the property they're hunting is bigger than a mountain range. Like, so no, it's not easy to say yes or no, I believe in it. And it doesn't matter. I think if it's legal, I think if it's ethical, I think that we all need to support one another and stop creating all these wars between and amongst one another.
Right. All these microaggressions
Yeah.
against each other.
Yeah.
It's like, how could you fish a stocked pond? Don't you know you need to go fish the wild
Yeah.
fish?
Yeah, exactly. Like, who cares? If someone's got a fly fishing or a fishing rod in their hands, more power to them. They're doing what I love to do too. They're fishing. I don't care if someone's got a longbow in their hands or a long range rifle hunting. If you're comfortable with that weapon and you feel like you're being ethical, I think we should support it.
Absolutely. You know, being a PE teacher, I'm like, I'm trying to get kids up and off the couch and out living their lives. And here people are fighting about how they're living their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And it tends to be that again, that culture we live in where, you know, people love to like have an opinion and get on their soapboxes and this and that. And they're, oh, such a strong voice behind that computer screen. Well, truth be told, they're probably living in their parents' basement eating Cheetos and Hot Pockets. Come on. Like I think keyboard cowboys is a word I use a lot, where the antis seem to get all big, proud, and strong, and they love to call me every name under the sun, or hunters love to bash each other, you know, of, oh, I wouldn't have shot that buck, or, you know, just, enough. Like, I think the culture with technology and social media that we live in tends to almost create that jealousy or that competition or that sense of rivalry, when I really believe that if the average hunter understood, like even just the court systems and what's in place to try to take away our hunting, fishing, and trapping rights, they wouldn't be so quick to rip on each other.
Right. So I've yet to even shoot a deer, but this year in the state of Washington, I drew a second deer permit that is open from August 1st until December 31st,
Whoa,
and it's for a doe.
Oh, it's a doe. Okay, doe.
Yeah, it's a doe tag, and it's on an island with no public land. So I'm going to have to go knock on doors and ask permission.
Oh, yeah? Well, do you have your maps handy?
Say that? Yeah, I sure do.
Yeah.
I've already been saying, yeah. And be like, all right, well, let's start to learn these people's names.
Exactly.
One of the things is like bridging the gaps of public land versus private land, shooting deer that have antlers versus no antlers, you know, the doe versus buck debate.
Yeah.
And then also just urban hunting versus, you know, out in the wilderness, and how important and impactful it is to just educate people on every animal, whether if they are an animal that is legal to take, then it's okay to take it.
Definitely.
If that's what you need to do and you want to do, and it's within the rules of the game, then go for it.
I think people have to remember that every hunt and every hunter is situational. You know, they might, oh, you shot a doe or you shot a cow. Yeah, I needed meat in my freezer. Or, yeah, my neighbors are struggling right now and needed help, or whatever. Every situation and every hunt is different. I have some bucks on my wall that people may look and go, why in the world did you mount that? Well, because that was the only buck I saw in 10 days. It was extremely difficult. I battled blizzards, you know, where I couldn't even see more than 50 yards, like whatever the situation. Every hunt and every situation is different. And I think it's important for people to get behind one another and not be so focused on I'm going to say the T word. I hate the T word, but not
say it.
Trophy. I hate the word trophy. And yet there's not really a good replacement yet. I'm telling you, we're going to evolve into that as well. So while huntress is slowly fading away and we're all going to be hunters, the word trophy hunting that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself. But the people, I'll just say it like this and not use the T word. People, I believe we all should be less focused on the size of the animal and more focused on the experience.
True that. That is words well spoken right there.
Well, thank you.
When I was in college, you always did things for the story and be like, man, you can't believe what I did last weekend. Yeah. Or, you know, this is going to be great to tell to the grandchildren. You know, and hunting's the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, part of the reason why we mount these animals is because we honor them and respect them, and we want their life to live on. In multiple cultures across the world, you die multiple deaths. First, when you recognize that you are mortal.
Yep.
Second, when you actually die. And then the third is when your name is no longer spoken.
Oh, I like
Well,
it.
when we mount these animals, their name, their life lives on.
I agree. And well, it can be odd for someone who doesn't have head mounts in their home, but these are my memories in the physical form. I look up on my wall right now and I'm staring at an Alaskan moose that was like one of the highlights of my life. And I'll be able to share that story forever. And not only that, pass that moose down. I don't know where all my mounts are going to go. I don't have kids. I have Brennan. Brennan is my stepson who I helped raise, who's an amazing human being. He's 25 years old, lives in Boston. He's a hunter as well. But there's no way he's going to want all of my mounts. I'm going to have to leave them to I don't know, Sportsman's Warehouse or something.
I'll take some.
Okay, well, yeah, you sign up for whatever you want. We'll make that happen. But hopefully you're right. Those stories, those heads will get hung in other homes and buildings, and those stories will continue to be told. And yeah, I mean, it really is our memories in the physical form.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, you and I are kindred spirits. I can tell that we should have started talking a long time ago.
Well, at least we connected, and we'll have the future years to share podcasts and stories and adventures.
Of course. So here's a question I want to ask you is, what is it like being in the hunting industry, and how has it affected your passion and love of what you love, hunting?
It's just made it explode, really. Like I said, my dad got me into bird hunting early, and then I was into whitetail hunting when I got into college. But really being in the hunting industry isn't something I particularly planned on, but it's just made it grow and explode. It's made me really get involved in conservation. I'm a lifetime member of the Mule Deer Foundation, the Turkey Federation, the Safari Club International. I'm also a member of the Sportsman's Alliance, SFW. These are groups that are of like-minded people. This year, I'm almost in one or two more skulls. I will be at raising $70,000 for conservation through my skull artwork. Hopefully I'll top that this year. And, just to be able to give back to what I love and the platform that I've been given through Skullbound TV has been amazing. It's just made it explode. And, I'm just so grateful for the opportunities that I've got, the platform that I have, the friends that I've made. I've met the most amazing people. I still am in shock and awe of it all. I mean, we may be doing our last season of Skullbound, and I might be branching into some other things. We're going to continue on with Chronicles. I'm not sure yet. It's been a long run. It's been a decade. But the people that I've met have been literally life-changing. From Daniel Lyon, he was a survivor of the Washington Twisp forest fire, the only survivor of 4 men in a vehicle forest fires and he survived, and he was burned over 70% of his body. He's just an amazing human being. I met him because of hunting. I met a double amputee, Bo Richenbeck, who's a Navy SEAL who lost his legs on his first mission overseas. I hunted with him. He's an amazing soul. There's so many amazing people that I've met through hunting that I'm literally every day, I'm so grateful for not just a career, but a passion like this.
Yeah. Amen. And I hope everyone has the opportunity to live out their passion day in and day out, because that is what makes life fulfilling.
Oh, I feel sorry for anyone who doesn't really have a passion. Shopping doesn't count. I have a couple of girlfriends back home that are they consider shopping a pastime. No, that doesn't count. And I'm kind of making fun of them, but I don't even care if it's knitting. I don't care if it's quilt making. I don't care what it is. Passion. I love people that have passion. I don't care what it is, but that you have something in your life that just motivates you and drives you and makes you connect to yourself and other people better. that's passion. And I respect anybody that has a true passion. And that's what's so fun about being in the industry and working as a career in this industry, is that I get to meet so many other people who feel the way I do, who just can't imagine their life without it. And we need to start kind of imagining what it would be like without it, so we get together stronger and support it.
Yep. Yep. Amen to
Am I
that.
being preachy?
It
I'm being a little preachy.
No, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. We all have purpose in this life, and you're living it
Yeah,
out.
I'm trying. Great.
You're doing a great job. So, talking about purpose and passion, what has hunting taught you about yourself?
Sure. You name it. I'm not kidding when I say every lesson under the sun. Resilience, that comes from the antis a lot, but even pushing yourself physically through hard hunts, patience. Um, it's taught me just pride, but not in a bad way, like confidence, just a confidence in maybe take it, let's say, because I'm a bow hunter, but now I've become a long range rifle shooter. I've picked up handguns. I'm a muzzleloader hunter. Like, every time I pick up a new, like this year, I'm hunting the first time with a Desert Eagle 429 handgun. Like when I first shot it, I was freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, this thing's a beast. How is this going to go down? And I've gotten super comfortable with it at the range. I'm super excited to take my first big game animal with it this year. Like every time I pick up something new, you just develop that confidence, and then you take that confidence into the field, and then hopefully you're rewarded with a notch tag. And confidence is a huge part of hunting, and I think it's so great when kids are introduced to it at an early age, where they can really build on that.
Yeah.
But really everything, it's really taught me all of life's lessons, time management, just
That's an important one.
yeah, like seriously, just sustainability, everything, really hunting has taught me all of the life lessons can be related back to normal day, everyday living that hunting gives you.
I would totally agree. I think one of the biggest things that hunting has taught me is courage.
Oh yeah.
And what I've always grown up learning and known is that courage is a first known trait of a person.
Mm-hmm.
Is that if they don't have courage, all other traits of humans rely upon that individual one.
Well, when you think about it, especially when I've taken adults hunting for the first time, it's unnerving. Like, you don't know what to expect. You're afraid, am I going to screw up? What if I move and the animal sees me? What if I don't make a good shot? What if? All those what ifs come to play. And the more you're out there and the more knowledge you gain and the more experience you have, you literally can conquer those fears, and you can, build on those courage building blocks. It's a beautiful thing. And then hopefully people will take that courage that they've found within themselves and teach someone else who's brand new to hunting what they've discovered,
Yeah. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Jana, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your thoughts and your perspective. You have been an amazing guest, and I'm sure everyone getting an opportunity to listen to this is going to have a lot of takeaways from this episode. So thank you so much.
Well, I really appreciate it. Holy cow, I can't believe we've been talking for like an hour and 40 minutes.
It goes by quick when you're talking about what you love.
Right? I can tend to ramble on. But thank you so much for having me. This was such a fun chat, seriously about passion. It's really about passion, and it's so fun. I hope we can chat again after the fall season and share some stories.
No, absolutely. It'd be my pleasure to get you back on here and share some of these stories that we're going to develop over this coming year.
Well, you name the date and time, I'll be there.
You got it. So how can these listeners connect with you?
Skullbound TV on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. They can find Skullbound TV. Oh, actually, this week is, I don't know when this will air, of course. I run January through June on the Sportsman's Channel. This next week is our last episode for this season, but next season will be on January through June as well. And online, we're on My Outdoor TV or MOTV.com, which is a subscription-based hunting network. Or for free online, we're on Carbon TV, and that is Skullbound Chronicles, which is kind of the highlights or some neat interviews of people I've been hunting with, and some fun behind the scenes stuff. Skullbone Chronicles on Carbon TV. I think we have 7 episodes uploaded so far. We just launched that 2 months ago, and we're going to be loading a new episode every 2 weeks or so.
There you go. Hearing it firsthand from Jana herself. Thank you, Jana, for coming on. Really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Johnny. You too. It was my pleasure.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.